bookcase in the back of the room. First order of business is a moment of silence, silent reflection, and then the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Farabee.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First is a review and approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroix,
Second.
second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Hawley?
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Hennies, Commission Office Manager. For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items 5 through 10. Number 5 is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of May 16th, 2017. Number 6 is to acknowledge the notice of intent to conduct a raffle/duck race by the Rochford Chapel. Number 7 is to acknowledge the notice of intent to conduct a raffle by the Silver City VFD. Number 8 is to approve the budgeted general fund operating transfers to E911 fund in the amount of $338,618, in the emergency management fund in the amount of $115,510. Number 9 is to approve the 2017 2% cost of living contingency transfer as submitted by the auditor. And finally, number 10 is the approval of the adopt a highway application for an approximate 1.5 mile portion of Old Folsom Road by the Office of the 28 Bomb Wing Judge Advocate as submitted by the Highway Department.
Thank you, Ms. Hawley. Is there anybody from the public who wish to remove any item 5 through 10 on the agenda? Is there any commissioners that would like to remove any items 5 through 10 on the agenda?
Number 9.
Never mind. George? Farabee? Anybody else? Not, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Approval of the agenda with one addition, number 9.
Second.
Moved by Santos, second by LaCroix. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, Mr. Farabee, please.
I don't see the auditor. I have no idea what this is. I thought we built the 2%, Commissioner Buskard and I voted against the 2% raise, but I thought that was part of the budget for 2017. So are we paying the folks at that 2% starting January or?
Ms.
I have no idea what this is.
Hold on just a sec, George. Ms. Hawley.
This is the 2% that the commission approved for the 2017 wage adjustments for the employees. This was started to be paid in January of this year. It's approved in the budget. It just wasn't in each individual department's budget. So now we need to move the spending authority into the individual budgets, and that's the spreadsheet that you see in front of you, is that transfer.
Commissioner Farabee?
Well, the obvious question is, why now, almost 6 months into the year? Why are we doing it now? Why didn't we do it in January?
It was submitted by the auditor. I'm not going to speak on her behalf.
Do you want to continue this so we could, not today, but
I mean, you could table it for a little bit. Julie should be down here. She's got an item on the agenda as well.
let's move it to like 13B. Is that okay, Commissioner, or do we have to do that at the beginning? Do that?
Appropriate would be a motion to table.
Table and then bring it up at 13B? Okay. Do we have a motion
It's in
to,
the budget.
Okay.
Just don't be concerned with
I'll
that.
make that
It's in
motion.
the budget.
okay?
Second the motion.
So motion made by Buskard and second by DeSanto. To table?
To table?
Yes, till further in the agenda. Is that okay? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. So 9 is taken care of. We are on regular agenda items, 11 through 17. We'll have the County Cares Campaign for Rebound Program from Barry Tice and Carrie Miller. Thanks for coming today, guys.
We'll pull this up here.
There we go. I'm Barry Tice, the Director of Pennington County Health and Human Services.
Barry, move your mic just a little bit, sir. Thank you.
In a moment, I'll turn it over to Carrie Miller, who's the Director of Diversion Programs for Pennington County Health and Human Services. As I highlighted in the memo, we've surpassed 1,000 members of the Rebound Program, which was started in 2006, and it was the first reentry program in the state of South Dakota, and we continue to gain new members and make adjustments as the years have gone on, and you'll also see that there's been over a $3 million cost savings to county taxpayers with this program by, of course, keeping people out of the Pennington County Jail, which is our goal, and increasing successful individuals in our community by partnering with them. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie, and I will take a seat back here.
Thank you. Miss Carrie?
Good morning. Thank you once again for letting us share about Rebound. It's always fun to come and share about these things because it gets us energized and keeps us motivated for doing good things, so thank you for the opportunity. I am here to speak about Rebound, but I wanted to kind of look at the broader context of Rebound as well and talk about diversion as a whole, because we're doing some new and different things within our programming to really expand upon what Rebound does. So I'll mention a few of those things, and I know time is limited, so I will go quick. This is how we kind of envision diversion right now. You can see Rebound there at the top, which is the program we'll focus on today. But we also have the Crisis Care Center Transitional Case Management, which we provide out of our office. And then the Safe Solutions, which I'll talk a little bit about later on, as well as developing more community partnerships for resource development, which is becoming really important as we expand upon our programming. So Rebound, most of you have been up to our office and have heard the presentation before, but just as a reminder, Rebound is working with individuals that are incarcerated in the Pennington County Jail, and we work with them to establish new patterns of behavior and look at intensive case management and what that can do for them once they're released in our community. So what we do in the jail is we primarily work with the mental health providers and we connect inmates with services. Rebound is completely voluntary, so we rely on members to come to us, and they can do that through the jail kiosk system or through mental health as well. We meet with them in the jail, and we do a brief needs assessment and look at kind of what their plan is and create a plan for them upon their release, which usually involves scheduling an appointment right away. One way that we connect with them inside the jail is through our REACT class, which is just a really short 3-week class, which sounds really short to a lot of us, but for a lot of them, that's the only thing that they've maybe accomplished in their life. So 3 weeks of consistent attendance and learning about things that may have contributed to them ending up in the Pennington County Jail is really important. Once they're released, we connect them with a caseworker on the outside who meets with them in our office, and we set up a plan. We set up some goals and look at what's realistic. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is we're not law enforcement, we're not probation. So a lot of the times the individuals can open up to us about things that are really bothering them, the things that they're really struggling with, and then we can work on a path forward combined with some supportive agencies. So Rebound is really important within our community because there are a lot of service providers, but most of the individuals that we work with have burned their bridges with all of those support providers. And so we work with people that have long and intensive criminal histories, mental illness issues, substance abuse issues that have or have not been treated in the past. And maybe they've worn out their welcome at different agencies. We pick up where they've left off and try to get them on a path going forward. And that's, of course, as you can imagine, very difficult. But we do see a lot of success because of the intensive case management. And so we talk about the intensive case management, we talk about getting to know the clients, setting goals, establishing new patterns, but what does that really mean and does it really work? We measure a lot of data in our office, and that's how we kind of prove that the program is successful. So we measure people's incarceration 2 years prior to becoming a rebound member, while they're an active member, and then 2 years after we kind of discharge them from active membership. And as you can see from the chart here, we estimate that we can demonstrate a reduction in days of incarceration by over 49,000 days. And when you equate that to cost savings, it approaches the 3 million mark, which is pretty incredible for what we do. And of course, the cost of the jail has changed over the years, so that's why you can't just take a number times the days, but that's a pretty significant cost savings, and something that a lot of programs around the country actually call us and say, how are you doing this? What works? What's working? How did you start this? And it's because of this data that we've been tracking. So a little bit about Crisis Care Center and the partnership that we have there. When the Crisis Care Center was developed, it was decided that there needed to be a transition team that would kind of help people as they, after they have met with someone at the Crisis Care Center, to get established in a program or into resources within the community. And that's where we have stepped in. And we make those connections with people. And it goes beyond just calling for the appointment. We transport them. We keep in touch with them until they get those connections solidified. And then we let them kind of do their thing with that provider. But these are some of the statistics from that program and what we've been able to do there. Over 100 new referrals last year alone. And these individuals, they're usually not individuals that have been connected before. So they're an interesting population because this may be their first mental health crisis, maybe their first substance abuse crisis, and so that's when we're seeing them. So it's really, it is really connecting individuals for the first time a lot of times with resources and support services. One of the new things that we've been involved in for almost a year now is the Safe Solutions program down in Detox. And we partner with Detox to, what we've been doing over the last year is really just advocating and getting to know the clients that are using the Safe Solutions, the sobering beds, as most people call them. And so we go down every morning at 6:35, and we just check in with the clients that are sleeping there on the mats to find out how they ended up there, what time did they come in, what's their plan for the day. And we've been surprised by some of the information that we've been able to gather from that process. You can see there are 399 individuals have stayed for 12 plus hours in the safe beds. And what are the reasons for that? And this has been an interesting process because we've had a lot of kind of preconceived notions about what that place is about, but a lot of mobility issues. We see people in wheelchairs, walkers. Obviously, chronic alcoholism plays a factor into that. But also some of the folks that we work with, it's an aging population of chronic alcoholics, and so they aren't as bold and brazen as they used to be about staying out on the streets because they're afraid of assault or being victimized themselves. So the safe beds have become an important tool for law enforcement and others to use as an alternative to incarceration or inappropriate treatment. You can see there the times, the intake times have been busiest between the hours of 4 and 8 p.m. And this is significant as we move into the new county health facility and we're looking at staffing and what we can do. We've been able to really see when we can be most effective with our caseworkers. And so looking at connecting people in those safe beds to other support, other resources in the community. And then the other thing I wanted to just touch on is the community partnerships and some of the resource development. We have a lot of really good things going on in Rapid City, and we kind of pride ourselves in being a part of those things, and a lot of them, we're the leader in those things. And so developing those relationships with other agency providers means that we're not duplicating services or wasting our time or wasting the client's time, because the reason a lot of our clients give up is because they get frustrated. And so if we can eliminate that frustration, that's part of what we do. And so a lot of those partnerships look like team collaboration and working on solutions, and some of them actually result in grant dollars and that help us to be able to stretch the money that we do have to reach other goals. So those are kind of some things that we've been working on, and also it just really provides that system of care for the folks that we work with to ensure that they're gonna stay out of these high-cost, inappropriate alternatives because we have a system of care figured out for them. One of these programs that we have been a part of is called the New Start Grant. And this is actually a housing first approach, which is a pretty popular buzzword now. The thought is that if you get people in stable housing, that they become successful in other areas. And so we've used that approach here at Owens, the apartment down on Quincy Street. We manage that, co-manage that with behavior management systems. We have 12 clients in there now. And these are people that we've taken directly out of jail, directly off the street, who've had zero rental history. If they've had rental history, it's been very bad. And right now, the 12 clients that we have living there, every single one of them is employed. One of them is employed plus receives veterans benefits. So, is it working? It does work. The referral sources that we utilize to place clients into the Owens right now, we rely heavily on our relationship with the specialty court system, and we house a lot of their clientele in the Owens apartment as they're looking to transition into the community. We also have a great relationship with the CAP office in Rapid City, and they provide us with some grant dollars that go towards housing assistance, deposit, rent, utilities, things that we're unable to do with county dollars. The unique thing about those dollars is that the people that apply for them and receive them must be in a case management relationship with an agency in town. And that's really important because it's great to give people money, but if there's no resource or support attached to it, sometimes those things don't actually work out. We also partner with the city on the Community Development Block Grant to provide housing assistance. The unique thing about this grant is that there are some stipulations with that funding, the age of the home and different types of things. So it's ensuring that people are living in safe and appropriate housing, which I'm sure you all are very aware of some of the issues in Rapid City with the affordable housing, but also the safe, appropriate housing is really important for our clientele. So a couple of things on the horizon. We have a new initiative with the New Start Grant called the Periscope Project. There are a lot of discussions in town about appropriate housing and affordable housing, and the Periscope Project is really working towards establishing relationships with landlords to get some of our clients immediately housed. We partner with the MacArthur Foundation on the Safety and Justice Challenge, and then just also looking at options with South Dakota Housing on providing more rental and deposit assistance for some of our clients too. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Carey.
Yeah.
Commission? Commissioner LaCroix.
Carrie, I want to thank you for all your guys' work and Barry, because I remember when we did the community assessment back in 2008, community assessment needs for Rapid City, and this was high on the priority, and taking the challenge to move, to get where you are, and have you guys been able to present this to Minnehaha or some other counties yet, or?
Yeah, several times we've done different presentations. Just last year at the South Dakota Housing Consortium,
Brett Johnson, who's kind of my counterpart in Sioux Falls, we did a team presentation together, and they've actually started a program there called Alliance, which is really similar. So, yeah.
Because I really feel that people don't really understand how much cost savings there is in this. Maybe Kevin could answer some of the daily costs for detox, a night stay, and probably the jail, aren't they?
The jail is at $80 a day now.
Uh,
Detox, $220.
Detox is just a little above $200, right around there, per evening.
Yeah, because I
or
remember.
Per 24 hours.
I remember some studies that we'd seen where you did some case management for a year, and some of the costs that we were spending on individuals was getting up to $35,000 to $40,000 a year for one person.
Easily.
Between ambulance stays, detox, emergency room. That's why it's so important that you get those you've got the community connections together with the hospital, Vukurovich, a lot of these people, getting them together and building on that relationship. And I think you guys did a good job working with this program.
We're fortunate too that Sheriff Tome allows the access we have within the county jail, and that's just one of those partnerships, as Carrie highlighted. Those partnerships are what make this successful, and of course, in that memo, I emphasized my belief is we have some of the best caseworkers in the state and in the nation, and I truly do believe that under Carrie's supervision. They have a very unique ability to create conversations with individuals that normally do not want to have conversations with others, and that's what really makes it successful. And so it's something we should really be proud of, and just the collaborative efforts that are done with other community organizations to make this successful and work together to problem solve.
Well, I'm really glad we're getting to the point where we used to have a lot of sites in this community that, just throw people in jail, lock them up, sober them up, throw them back out, and not dealing with the core issue, which is a lot of it's mental illness. Like you said, housing's number one to get people going, and it's good to see that we're moving forward in that aspects. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Commissioner Farabee.
Got a question about Owens Apartments. Do we own those, or do we rent them, or how does all that work? And
Those are actually owned by a private real estate developer in town. And he was kind of aware of what Rebound was about, and he offered the opportunity to us to house some of our most vulnerable clients there. He allows us to vet all of the clients that we move into the building. They've been very generous with their resource that they have, but because of the grant, then they are, some of the units are subsidized because people can't afford the entire rent until they get up on their feet. But the investor himself has been very generous, not only with Owens, but then also transitioning folks into the community. He has other property in the community then that we can move clientele to once they've kind of got on their feet and have learned appropriate patterns. So that's been great.
yeah, thank you.
What we've learned through the Owens as well is we assumed that the grant funding would go pretty quickly on some subsidizing the rents, and most often individuals have income coming in, and that's what I think the community needs to understand is there's plenty of individuals working who are living there, along with individuals who receive disability, but there's income coming in, so it's not fully reliant on grant funding. And that grant funding actually then extends instead of a 2-year, sometimes it goes up to 4 years because of the numbers of individuals gaining employment successfully.
Most people that we move into Owens have employment within 2 weeks, which sounds,
Nice.
that's pretty incredible for some of the clients that we're working with.
That is incredible.
The location is great downtown, provides a lot of employment opportunities, so.
And that's a big issue, is where you're putting the housing so people can get transportation to their jobs. And Commissioner DeSanto, please.
The people that are staying at the Olin House, are they still involved in the rebound project? Are they being counseled? Are they?
Yep, we have active case management with them. We require at least 2 weekly visits one of those in their apartment to make sure that everything's going okay there. The other can be a check-in phone call. But then once they transition to the community, we stay in touch with them, they stay in touch with us. Not as intensive maybe, but we still do the home visits, because we want to make sure that things are going okay, actually in their living quarters. It's really, that's where they struggle.
And that kind of leads me to my next question. Do you find that these people that are involved in the rebound program tend to take a little more pride in their residents that we're helping them out
Oh,
with?
yes. I mean, for most of them, sometimes when they move in, they just think, oh, there's a bunch of rules here. I'm not going to make it here. It doesn't take long for that place to become home. And they take a real pride in being there. And if you ever would like to tour and see one of those rooms, I would be glad to take you through. They're immaculate. I think some of you have been in and to see, these are people that have had nothing, and they create a home out of a little efficiency apartment. So yeah, definitely pride of ownership there.
I just think that the combination of the mental illness help that they're receiving is leading to that. I've talked to a lot of landlords that owned low-income subsidized housing, and a lot of them are on their way out because their places just get torn to shreds, and they give the people an opportunity to have a roof over their head, and then the people tear the place to pieces.
Owens is a teaching program. It teaches them how to keep those things going so that they
Good.
don't face those problems.
I like that.
And I appreciate that too, the comments from Mr. LaCroix and Mr. DeSanto, very positive. Basically, life coaches, you guys are teaching them the next step in taking care of themselves and giving them pride in where they live. So that's huge for most people. And people think that you just know these things because we do it every day, some of us, and we expect everybody else to know what we know. So it's kind of nice that you move them in a different direction, in a different phase of their life so they can see what's out there. My question was, out of the 1,000, how do you measure the outcomes? Do you measure it by, and have you measured those outcomes of those thousands of or the 1,000 that you have, how are they doing now?
We haven't tracked beyond the 2 years. We've used that 2 years before and 2 years after as kind of a guideline.
But you haven't checked like if out of those 1,000, have there been measures that showed that they have been back in jail or that?
Some of them have been back in jail. We haven't tracked beyond that. But
Right.
what I would say is that there's significant enough change within 2 years, and a lot of national data will show that 2-year time period, that's not just a random number, that's a specific chosen time period
Right.
for behavior change and that kind of thing. Of course, you always have the people that don't make it. But we have a lot of folks that stay on as rebounders for years.
Nice. And I guess that's what I'd like to hear is the recidivism and are they staying on the rebound programs and wanting to keep going, okay, what's next? What's next? The next phase.
They
so.
do, some of them after they feel like they don't kind of need us anymore, we may not hear from them for months, and then one day we'll get a phone call, hey, you're not going to believe what happened to me. I got a job or I got a new apartment. So a lot of that kind of check-in informally happens with a lot of the folks that we work with.
And if you work in those programs, if you ever have, guys, just having people come back and seeing them and their progression in their lives, that's pretty exciting for people that you go, wow, I made a difference. And that makes a huge difference for people in those programs that are going, sometimes we feel like we don't really make a difference. And then you're going, wow, that's pretty awesome. One more thing, the Periscope project, I think is good, and I've always liked Barry and his staff, Ms. Gary, and others in there, because what it's doing is focus on relationships, team building. It's not just adding to the issues. I tell people, like giving people money and not having any kind of follow-through just doesn't work, I don't think. So even with this housing crisis, working with the landlords and people to figure out how to do almost like a Owens Apartments and follow-throughs is a lot different than going, okay, we need housing, we need affordable housing, and then going, okay, we put all these people in affordable housing, what happens next? Because again, life coaches, or however you say it, just because you give someone a house doesn't mean it's going to be taken care of, as Mr. DeSanto had said. So I think that's going to be huge in working with people in the community and landlords that actually want to do those follow-through and make a difference in their community, not just, get some money from people that need some housing. So I hope when they do affordable housing through the city and others that they know what you guys are doing and following your programs, because you guys do some awesome work.
Thank you.
So,
Got one final
Commissioner
question.
Fairby.
Is any connection, is Owens Apartments with HUD? Is HUD connected in any way?
No.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, folks?
No.
Okay, thank you for coming today.
Thank you for your time.
Commission, we're on number 12, and that'd be Jerome Wright, Jerry Wright, manager and contributing designer of Rapid City Recycling and Composting Program. Mr. Wright, please.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm privileged to be here today. And first of all, I'm seeking funding, additional funding to continue research at the School of Mines on water conservation through the amendment of soils through compost, which we produce. But let me give you a little background on why this is so very important. As we know, our population grows. We have a demand for water that's increasing constantly worldwide, locally. And it's important that we protect the amount of water that we have, because there will be no more than what we have. So with our growth, we need to take care of what we have. It's interesting that around the world and locally, probably 70% of our water is used in agriculture, irrigation, and related items. That's a lot of water. City of Rapid City, I know in my bill in January, it's like $16 for water. If I irrigate my yard, it's like $85. So it takes a lot of water, and our production is about, I think it's like 10 million gallons a day production in the winter and 17 million during the summer. That's just examples of the water consumption that's used for irrigation. The intent of this proposal is to get funding to do research. Is if we take the compost, which the City of Rapid City makes from solid waste and also from yard waste, which is an extremely valuable product, to get it used more and extensively within our community, especially in the public parks, recreation, gardens, our yards, but even more importantly, in our agricultural industry. I know when I ran for council several years ago, one of the issues that I had talked to people was rekindling basic industries. And one of them was the ag side of beef production, beef processing, and I found out beef processing is not a thing that we can afford to get into in this area, but we can do a lot more to protect the herds of cattle, and that's going to take water conservation and better forage. This is something that we can do. We have the Rapid Valley Irrigation District. We have water. We just need to do a better job of using it. Interestingly enough, the city, or us as people, produce garbage. About 50+% of it's organic. It's yard waste, food, paper, and so forth. It's a very usable product. So we're taking a product that we used to bury in landfill, making a product that's usable, putting it into the soil, and we're going to save water. It's a win-win situation. We also work through our biosolids, where our water reclamation plant used to take that and land apply it. It's now put into the composting process. It goes again from waste product to use product. The biggest issue is finding a more extensive use of that product by the community so that we don't have it sitting on the ground and not being used, and we see the benefit from it. One hopeful benefit of this research is to prove and find out the true value of water, and if we can find what I think it's worth, we'll be able to tell the city, if you may have to assist the farmers and agricultural people in the transportation and application of the compost, that may be one of the findings, and they can justify it by the value of the water. I've done literature review extensive for the last several years. Of course, I was in the solid waste industry for 20+ years, and I know the compost, we started making yard waste in 93, 94, the municipal solid waste compost in 2003, 2004. I've read extensive documentation on compost. There's a lot of articles on compost, the quality of it, what it does, what it is, how it provides water availability to plants, but I've never found a good article or articles on the conservation of water through the use of compost. And that's where this is going. Over a year ago, I started looking at funding to get this done because it's a dream. I want to see more of it used and to benefit our community. And I found the money, but I didn't find anybody to do the research. And someone said, why don't you do it? So that's why I went back to school last fall. And I'm working on a PhD at South Dakota School of Mines in water conservation. And the hypothesis or theory is if we add a soil amendment, we will save water, a significant amount of water. This amount of money that I'm asking for will not go to my education or my career. I'm totally funded either through my own money or through the GI Bill. This is not for me. The money we're looking at is to help establish some furthered research and establish some joint or local knowledge and what we can do with our waste product, our compost, and water conservation. And I think prove to the world, and South Dakota School of Mines can become a leader for the world and the region at least in what can be done and maybe be a seed for further research and education. We've already set up an area that we're going to do the research at in Rapid Valley, right near their water reclamation facility. We have access to water, we have access to property, it's in the irrigation district. We've set up through 2 circle rings that will be sprinklered, and we're going to monitor the amount of water that's applied and how it affects the soil, what the water availability will be in the soil for plant growth. The theory is that if you amend the soil, the infiltration rate will significantly increase. In other words, the water will enter the soil much, much faster. It will take less time of application for irrigation, which will save water from evaporation. It'll save pumping time and hopefully and wash-off time, because water that's applied on a flooded field will wash across and go into the creek and never be used. And if we can save the water, get the production out of the crop or the land or the grass, we're going to see a real plus. And that's the whole idea behind this. I brought with me 3 samples of soil. They're all soils from the exact same spot we're doing our test at, right next to the water wreck, right by Rapid Creek, part of the irrigation district. This cylinder here has no compost, the next one has 5%, and that one has 10%. And I'm going to pour some water in there and just demonstrate to you that when we pour the water into the pure soil, it takes about 3 to 4 minutes for it to percolate into the soil. In the compost, it takes 30 to 40 seconds. I just want to do a visual, if that's okay with you. Okay? I don't have I can time this one, or maybe we can just watch it. What would you like to do?
Just watch it.
Watch it.
Watch it.
Thank you.
I'll let you know when it's all the way down. That's started. 5%. This is 10%. Water's in, still standing.
And the first one was just regular dirt.
First one is just the soil, no compost. So the whole hypothesis, in the research, the land or the soil, the only change in it is the application and incorporation of compost. The fields are oriented into the wind. The application rate of water will be monitored to see how it conducts, but the same plants, the same growth, the same tillage, the same everything will be applied. So the only thing that we have is difference will be the compost. The funding would go towards funding efforts and resources by the School of Mines. Hopefully we can get a master's student involved with research and begin to learn more about the project and support it. And with additional local funding, the city has already agreed to participate. I'd like to go to South Dakota DNR in July for some additional money, and also to the NRCS USDA for some funding. So we can do a bigger scale project and application, probably in Rapid Valley, possibly up in Belle Fourche, or possibly in the Cheyenne River, just to get an application rate in a production area. Water's gone. Takes usually about 4 minutes, 30 to 40 seconds.
Do we have any questions for Jerry Board?
I do.
Commissioner DeSanto?
If we determine that this is a better way to go as far as creating our parks and so forth and so on.
Right.
How do we apply that throughout the county? What's the cost to, I mean, I'm assuming, Jerry, that we're going to want to tear up existing lawn and put down the mixture that you're proposing, and then plant new grass. So I know that there's always a step that's gonna cost money before you can save money, I understand that. But is that basically, am I correct in that assumption?
Actually, on an existing lawn, and I've done this, you don't have to tear up the lawn. You can mow it down and apply a thin layer of compost, and it'll incorporate itself into the soil. And you can do it over a period of time, and you'll increase your organics. On a farm application where you're plowing or tilling, you'd want to work it in and get it established. It's very similar to no-till farming, the benefits that you gain from it.
Okay.
And the cost, what I have found in my research over the years, we did some in 93, 94 with Dr. Fine and small grains. The agricultural industry, where there's a $1,000 an acre property or $300 acre property, and they're making, say, 30 bushels at $3 a bushel, they simply cannot afford to have it applied and transported. But in my opinion, if we can show the value of water to the community, which is the city, the county, and Rapid Valley, anybody else that has water or produces water, if we can save that water, is it worth us transporting it and maybe applying it, maybe not incorporating it to the other projects? I think the city could do more along the lines of when there's a development occurring, we could ultimately say, you need to incorporate the soil in the interest of water conservation. We hear about cities like Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and places where there's even more arid than we are, doing similar things. We're taking lawns out. Those are things that we can do and look at. The intent of the research is to prove how valuable water is and how we can save it in irrigation. And the savings has a tremendous value to us as a community. Therefore, I think we can afford to assist in getting it down, getting out to the properties.
Okay.
The merits of compost is also phenomenal in production and yield, and I've got a friend here, Kathy Drain, who's with Master Gardeners. We're willing to talk about what compost does for plant yield and crop growth, but we're working with Sandeep Kumar at SDSU. I took a class for him. He'll be available to research on the Aggie side. We've got Dr. Kenner and staff at the School of Mines work on the water conservation side. I think it's a great effort to work into.
And it reduces the amount of evaporation by a ton, doesn't it?
Well, if the water gets in quicker, there won't be hardly any evaporation.
Right, because it's not exposed to the
Right. And
element
if you're doing a
from the
sprinkler
other side.
system, you got high heat, you can evaporate some in the air, but once it's on the ground, it should help.
Commissioner
It'll
Busker.
retain it.
Sorry,
Keep it.
Jerry. Commissioner Busker?
On ag land, Jerry, how deep is it incorporated?
You're gonna wanna work into the root zone. What we're doing out on the research project is an approximately 8-inch root zone.
Just 8 inches.
8 inches. You can go 12 foot, you can go 24 inches. We're gonna do 8 inches on this one.
Okay, here's my serious question. I see the facility out here gets a little over 6,000 ton a year. Looks like that's sort of an average. How much land will that do? I mean, if you're starting to talk about ag, I mean, lawns, that's maybe one thing, but boy, you're talking about 300 acre field. That takes a lot. I mean, ton does it take, and what are you gonna have to expand this plant 10 times or something to make it
We're gonna
worthwhile?
expand it. What we're looking at is using what we produce and the benefits of the water. I know that years ago, when Dr. Fine and I were doing the research with small grains, I calculated, I think there was 35,000 acres of small grains in Pennington County. I think, if I remember right, it would take us like 50 years to do one cycle through all those acres. It'd take 15,000 ton, of compost would yield probably about 150 to 200 acres per year. It wouldn't, when you look at the entire size of the county, that's not much. But if you look at what it would do to those 200 acres, I think it's phenomenal.
My question is
The way of
that,
using a waste product to gain water.
Jerry, it might soak it in quick, but does it dehydrate faster?
No, the
Because the
water-
stuff I used, it dehydrated pretty fast when I used the compost, so I had to mix more dirt into it again. So it kind of dried out and wouldn't do the grass very well. And then when I mixed it with some other dirt, then it was fine. But it does soak in quick, but to me, it dehydrated quicker with the compost.
Well, when it's incorporated into the soil, that should not be an issue if it isn't
Right.
too much. Now, if compost has it, have a phobia of water because of its chemistry, it'll reject water until it's soaked up, and then it'll really take it. That's a pure compost, and we've grown crops and we've grown grass in pure compost, but the intent is about a 4-to-1 mix is what we want to do. That's about what we're looking at.
Okay.
in the natural organic compound of our prairie grass, I think it's like 3 to 5%. 5% is exceeding to that, 10% is way over that. But
Okay. Commissioner LaCroy.
Thanks, Jerry, because I remember you were doing a study with the compost quite a ways back out in the valley somewheres,
yes,
trying it out, and so now it makes sense to what Deb was talking about, by intermixing it, not using all of it solid, if I remember right. But, I just gotta amend you for what you've come up with out there with the compost and the wood chips. I mean, just last week, I took, I think, 7 or 8 truckloads of the wood chips out of there at $5 a pickup load. I mean, that's pretty reasonable.
Wow.
I'd like to see, at this point, I don't know how much you're asking for, but, I'd like to do a little more research on it and so forth and get the costs that you're asking for and be able to research that way. And then get with you maybe on the side and do some discussion.
the amount requested is 25,000. And again, please understand that that would be between the county and the School of Mines, not with me. I won't spend a dime of it. They will. They'll use it for student support. And any support would be greatly appreciated. It's going to help us with match for state money and possibly some federal money.
Okay.
Jerry, I'm wondering if you have, this has to do with conservation of our water resources. Have you gone to your conservation districts and asked them for additional funding?
I went to West Dakota and they denied it. And I was disappointed and shocked. That's about all I want to say on that one, because I thought for sure that they would support it, because their number one goal is water conservation, and that's what this is all about.
That was a water district.
The water district,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Water
Not a-
development
there-
district.
We have 2 conservation districts.
Right.
We also have a budget coming up, Jerry, in about a month or so, and maybe then too, we have researched this, and maybe that should be put in, as one of the items that if we want to fund, that would be a good time to bring it forward, sir.
Is there a chance of funding this year or not?
We'll have to, I was gonna add, Julie will be here pretty quick, our auditor, and
Okay.
maybe we might have some money in our contingency fund, but I don't know.
Doesn't
where
have to be all at once. If it's over a 2-year period, I think it'd be adequate. 12,000 this year, 12,000 or something like that would
Okay,
work.
yeah.
That would work. And we'd set that, again, the contract would be between the county and School of Mines, and those can be adjusted.
And I too would like to do some research on it. I'm not
Problem.
opposed, but just, and I think I told you that right away, that today probably wouldn't be something I could just say to do it and give the funding today, but if I did more research as well, it might be possible for the future, so,
You can call me anytime. I'm in the book.
okay. Thank you, Jerry, for your
Jerry.
presentation.
Thank you very much.
Just a minute.
Jerry, please.
I think what Commissioner Santa was talking about was Pennington County has a west conservation district and east, 2 conservation districts in the county, and we fund them to about $250,000 a year, and I think what Commissioner DeSanto was saying is you should have probably approached them. I believe I've seen their balance sheets that they have excess cash laying around.
Right.
I'd be happy to talk to them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll get
And
with Holly
Holly,
and find out how.
And Jerry, just talk to Holly and she can get you a hold of the people that are in charge of those districts.
But thank you. Anything you can do would be appreciated.
And
the
their
School of
title is conservation.
And the School of Mines would appreciate it too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is items from the auditor. The general fund budget reserves, 13A. Have an auditor?
She's here, she's upstairs.
Okay.
I know they were in a meeting when I went up there this morning.
Have a meeting.
Oh, here she is.
Ms. Holly, we need the auditor.
Thank you again.
Okay, I'll make a phone call.
Thanks. Put her items at the end. Put her items at the end. Want to table hers till the end? Table her items till the end.
Well, we can do that, or we can ask Deputy Mueller to talk about the inmate bus transportation. I don't know where the 100,000 is being spent on the bus, or,
Oh, hold on, George, we gotta keep it somewhat in line.
You're in 2 seconds.
2
Okay.
minutes, all right.
You're number 13.
Well, I have something we could talk about. Holly, since the 4th of July comes on a Tuesday, have we decided when we're going to have that meeting?
The date is set for July 5th, Wednesday.
Okay, I just to let everyone know, I will not be here that day, since the doctor's going to replace my knee on that day, so.
Oh,
I'll come visit.
And just so everyone knows, I will be appearing from Washington DC on Skype.
maybe we should reschedule the meeting to do.
Ron, you had hips and now knees?
Yeah.
That's what usually
Both, or
happens.
just,
One so far.
Wow.
you're not gonna do it twice, though, like you did the
wanna
hips,
let
though, right?
Janet go?
This getting
Let's-
old is not a
Guys.
lot of fun.
But you're
Let's-
not gonna do it twice, though.
Let's postpone Julie and put Janet. Are we okay with that? Can we do that? Do we have to do it in a motion?
Janet can go quick. She'll
Janet,
be
go ahead.
up and done.
Okay, Janet, you're up.
She's running down right now, though. Okay.
Look nice, Janet.
Hi, thank you. Janet Saylor, Pennington County Treasurer. First of all, I'm supposed to come and give you a list of the mobile home distress warrants that were uncollectible. There are no uncollectible mobile homes this year. The sheriff's office were issued 377 distress warrants on January 3rd for $133,000, and they were all collected.
Okay,
Make a motion to accept the report and thank the sheriff's office for a job well done.
motion made by Buschard, second by
Second.
Mr. LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 14B, please.
Okay, the Obligation Recovery Center. As you were all aware, the state set up an Obligation Recovery Center, and for getting money back that was owed for court fees and everything. And our understanding was, when this was set up, it was going to be at no cost to the county. That did not happen. We have a fund that is given back to the county, a percentage. It's not very much. But we found out here at convention that the state of South Dakota is taking the money from the money that is returned to us for our supply fund and paying to send out letters for the Obligation Recovery Center. It's not a huge amount because it's split up between every county, but it's still an amount that should be coming back to Pennington County. From November 2016 to April 2017, they sent out 3,860 letters certified at $7 an envelope for a cost of $27,000. That's just for that run. I have met with some of the legislators, and one of them has contacted the governor's office, and we are trying to find out how we're going to get that money back, because that money belongs to the counties. It does not belong to the state to collect for their Obligation Recovery Center, because that money goes to the state,
So
not
Ms.
to the counties.
So, Ms. Jen, do you want some kind of letter from us, or are you just giving us this information?
Right
for
now, I
info?
just want to give you information
Okay.
on this, and I'm going to let the legislators that are working on this see what they can get done, because they've already made the phone call, and Representative DeSanto is waiting for a call back from the governor's office at this point.
You?
If you could, excuse me, get us a letter of what you just said, then maybe we can also forward some emails to the legislators ourselves
That's a
as
resolution.
commissioners.
Okay, I can do that. The next thing is, and this is just for your information, you may hear about it, the state of South Dakota, for the money that's collected for the SST and the online renewals is remitted to Pennington County and to every other county before the last day of the month. That did not happen in May. The state forgot that there was a holiday and they did not transfer the money to Pennington County, which was $81,826.08. I did speak with Auditor Pearson, and the state sent a letter via email and wanted us to pay our $81,000, and they would deposit the money in our account in June. After discussion with Julie, we decided we weren't going to pay the state anything because we didn't have the money in May, and that they could collect their money in June. So it's not going to be in our state remittance. And some of the counties I know refuse to pay it. It's really affects our bank statement, and it affects our monthly. And I don't feel that we should have to make adjustments to our account for the state not doing what they were supposed to do.
What
We had a
happens?
holiday too. Everything we needed to pay was transferred before the end of the month. And I don't feel we should be paying the state for money that we don't have.
So, Ms. Janet, what happens if we refuse to give them anything?
We'll give it to them.
Just,
It's just gonna go, it's
Month
just
late.
gonna be a month late.
okay.
If we're late on our state remittance, just for your information, we're fined.
Okay. I thought you said some of them
Some of them
refused
paid
to
it.
even paid it, but you may just refuse to pay until June.
I'm refusing to pay the state for the month of May because I didn't have the money
Okay.
in my account.
I
And it's not
misunderstood
something
you.
that I just decided off the cuff. I did talk to Julie, and it will affect our bank statements. So I wanted to give you that information. What I would like the commissioners to vote on is the next item, plate on demand. I don't know if you're aware of what's going on there, and I don't have a lot of information to give you. I've also met with legislators on this. The governor has ordered a summer study. I have requested that some of our legislators ask to be on that summer study. I'm on it because I'm on the Motor V Task Force, but the governor's office wants all license plates to go through the state of South Dakota. So if you come to my office, you have a title transfer, and you want your plate picked up that day, you're not going to get it. They're going to have a centralized location that's going to we're going to give you a permit when you come to the office, and then you're going to drive around without your plates on until the state gets it mailed to you.
What are they gonna collect for that?
Well, they say they're not going to collect anything for it at this point. We haven't even started the study yet. My fear, Commissioner Buskerud, is the state's going to come back and they're going to say, we're doing all the work now, so you're not going to get your borrowed money.
Yep.
That's what our fear is.
Wow.
And
And
every
they're putting
county
people
across
through
the-
another government process to get something they paid for, which is crazy.
when people come to the office, they want to leave with something.
Yeah.
And law enforcement thinks they had permits for personalized plates. They're going to have permits for every vehicle out there. It's going to be a nightmare for them.
Sounds to me like the state is trying to make up part of their deficit,
Yep.
once again, by the counties.
That's my feeling. And I know your resolutions have to be in, I think, sometime this month for the commissioners.
July 31st, up to the state.
And I'm not against progress, but I'm against them taking more control away from the counties, because they're going to have to fund this. They're going to have to pay these people somehow. How
So
are they
if
going to
our-
pay them?
If our board decides to do a resolution of support, can you help Holly draft that for us,
Yes.
Ms. Janet? Is that the board's wish today?
That'd be my wish.
Okay,
We don't want to support.
meaning, you know what I'm
Right,
saying, the
we
letter
don't want to
that
support it.
is supporting what Ms. Janet said. Thank you, Ms. Julie. Okay, there's been a motion and a second to draft a resolution. We have it by DeSanto and LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Janet. Thank you for your time. Now we're on Ms. Julie, number 13. Ms. Julie, just a heads up, we got 13A, and we're taking number 9 up. We had some questions on number 9 on the consent calendar. Maybe Ms. Holly can give you that information.
If you tell me the agenda title, I will
Okay, we'll do
address it.
13A first, and that would be general fund budget reserves, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm late.
You're okay.
As the board is aware, and for the information of the two new commissioners, during budget cycle, we budget for long-term capital asset type purchases. We have to put it in a specific line in the budget every year, and then we physically have to have a motion by the board to move it to these long-term reserves. Then, for an example, the inmate transport bus is gonna cost us between $600,000 and $800,000. We don't want that all to hit in one budget year and have to levy for it. So we set up the $100,000 every year, and then when they buy the bus, we will pull that money out of reserves to the amount that we need it. And that's what all of these are for.
Which makes sense.
So this is a normal accounting process. All the long-term reserves or reserve accumulations are not calculated in the year-end cash reserves because we're not, other than on maybe the bus, where we don't know if we will need those reserves or not during the budget year, so we don't use them as part of that. So it is kind of a little bit of a cushion, but our balances aren't large enough in those to make up the difference that we'll be dealing with for budget 2018. So these are the ones that we need added to for the 2017 budgeted long-term reserve accumulations. The IT equipment, $20,000, inmate transport bus, $100,000, election equipment, $25,000. And actually that equipment is 75. It's a typo from KJ from above. And comprehensive plan is 100,000.
Okay, any questions for Miss Julie?
But I
Commissioner
do,
Fairby.
yes, so let's start with number 4. Comprehensive plan, that's a one-shot deal, right? Why are we accumulating? That's a one-shot deal.
It
And we're
was
spending-
budgeted for the 2017 budget. I checked with PJ and that comprehensive plan will not be paid until the end of the contract, which he estimates is going to be in 2018. So we need to charge, basically for accounting purposes, we have budgeted for it, levied for it. It's in his 2017 budget. He's not going to spend it, so we put it in the reserve.
It wasn't in the reserve when we budgeted it?
It's in our budget reserve line item. This is moving the cash to a long-term reserve on our cash account.
So in that vein, the inmate
The
inmate bus, we're in about year 2 or 3 now of building up.
And that's the same with the IT equipment is a continual 20,000. And then when they need a major piece of equipment or a piece of equipment goes down on an emergency basis that they haven't planned for, that's what we would take out that. I don't recall what that balance is. And then the election equipment is for electronic poll books that was budgeted partially in 17 and will actually purchase in 18. We're waiting for a new model to come out.
It's like a savings account for what you want for the
Later
future.
on,
So you're
yes.
not just going, okay,
Well, I've got 2.
I've had something broke down and now I need 600,000, guys, can you get that for me?
I don't have those balances, but they're on your cash analysis report every time you get that with a budget.
But, Madam Chair, I've got, obviously, not at all clear to me why we're doing it now versus the first of the year. You know, what's magic about June 6th, I guess, is today. And secondly, it looks like these 4 accounts, we're shifting money from this pack rat hole to this pack rat hole. And I guess I'll vote for it, but I don't know what we're doing.
If you'd like me to address that.
Yes.
We can do this general fund budgeted reserves anytime. We just didn't do it in January. We try to get financials done by the 1st of March, and we really don't start paying attention to these until we start budgeting because I want to make sure I pull them out of my cash. One is a budget item, and you're moving it to the cash. So they're two, actually, in governmental accounting, they're 2 different things.
Well, maybe you can explain it to
And-
me at a different time, but for now, I'll just let it go.
Okay. Any other questions?
I make a motion to
Commissioner DeSanto?
approve.
Okay, a motion to assign 27 budget long-term reserve accumulations in the general fund as follows: IT equipment, 20, inmate transportation bus 100, election equipment 75, and comprehensive plan overlay district 100. We do have a motion by Commissioner DeSanto. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we need a motion to take from the table number 9 from the consent calendar, please.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Buskard, second by Mr. LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 9 was, did you get that, Julia? The 2% COLA contingency transfer, please.
This happened because when we did our provisional budget, you three old commissioners will remember, you two new young ones won't. We did not budget for any wage scale differences. Then on, like, the last meeting, we were to approve annual budget. The board decided to apply a 2% cost of living adjustment to the wage scale. That's a lot of recalculation, last minute, so you didn't have to have another special meeting in September. I just went in, used the April or May census, what we actually paid from that last month, or whatever month I used, I can't remember now, and just added a flat 2% of their salaries being paid. So, and the reason we're doing it now, which I heard a question from Commissioner Farabee, is I wasn't, and then we just budgeted as a one line item in each fund under kind of like a contingency transfer amount, which you have to have contingency, and then you have to actually transfer the spending authority to each budget. I didn't want to do it until the end of the year, thinking people could absorb some, it might be a benefit to us. But the way we set up our budgeting for 2018, with the first column, if you remember, being like a frozen wage scale, which would equal what we should have for a total for each department in 2017, so the board could make a more accurate, if you will, maybe isn't quite the right word, comparison on your budgets as you look into 2018 between the different columns. We wanted to have that 2% in the adjusted approved 2017 plus the 2%. So when you look at the 2018, first column, you'll be able to see
The
about
difference.
what the shift is, like
Yep.
if they've changed the amount of overtime, that type of thing. Just so it would make a better,
People would understand the budget a little bit better on those.
so you guys
goals.
would understand when we look through those comparisons. We normally don't make supplements or this type of adjustment to approve 2017 for your comparison's sake, but we felt we needed to do this one. We will also include any ongoing supplements so that you have a more accurate read on that number. The example of that would be the Marcy's Law and, the Marcy's Law. And there may be one other supplement, I can't remember off the top of my head, to the approved 2017, just so it shows you better. But that's why we're doing it now rather than at the end of the year. And because the 2% is of the salary line, it's also on Social Security and also on retirement, but it didn't affect the insurance line.
Thank you, Miss Julie. George, Commissioner Farabee, did you understand?
I guess.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Miss Julie?
It's a pain to have to do wages this way, but
Could we have the motion?
Move for approval.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve by Mr. LaCroy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Buskerud. Motion to approve budgeted general fund contingency transfer for 2% COLA and matching in the amount of $578,580 as outlined by each department. All in favor, say aye.
Oh, I've got one,
Oh,
Madam
sorry,
Chair.
Commissioner Farabee.
Since I was against the 2% COLA, to be consistent, I'll be voting against this.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
So you have 2 noes with Commissioner DeSanto and Commissioner Farabee and 3 ayes.
thank you.
Buskerud, LaCroy, and Hadcock. Thank you, Ms. Kara. Thank you, Ms. Julie. We're on 15A, and that would be Highway Resolution 2017-0 07-05, request for public hearing to revise the official Pennington County Highway System, South Valley Drive.
Good morning, Tom Wilsey, Highway Department. This is a request for a public hearing. This is to remove the approximate quarter mile of South Valley Drive that has been annexed by the city of Rapid City.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a motion on this?
Move to approve.
Moved approved by Commissioner LaCroy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Buschrood. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 15B.
15B is award recommendation for the bridge replacement on Hammerquist Road. The project was let on May 24th. Authorization to bid this project was given by the Board of Commissioners at the April 18th meeting. Bids were received from Heavy Constructors, Core Construction, and Wanzek Construction. Low bidder was Heavy Constructors to the amount of $218,237.
Thank you. Do we have a motion, Board, to approve the award?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Buschrood, second by LaCroy. Any discussion? Commissioner Farabee.
You'll have to refresh me. When did, let me back up. We went to a contractor for design of the bridge, right?
We have a consultant that designed it, yes.
How much did that cost us?
I do not know right off the top of my head, no. It would be in the mid-20s, it'd be it'd be more than that. I could not tell you right off the top of my head.
Did we, the board, have to let you go with a design?
Yes, you did about 3 years ago. I brought it to the board about 3 years ago. It was one of the first things I did as a highway superintendent.
So you have no idea what that cost us?
I would have to look it up, sir. I can't off the top of my head tell you what it was.
Okay. Any other discussion, George?
Yes. Can we afford probably $218,000 for the contractor, another, say, $32,000 for design, $250,000 for a road that's almost not used? Can we, the taxpayers, afford that kind of expenditure?
This is a county road that gets about, as I remember, I'm just going from memory here, about 50 vehicles a day. It's like any of our other rural roads in this county. I guess my question is, what's the difference between this one and one north of Wall or one south of Hill City?
Madam Chair, I can't imagine 50 vehicles a day driving over 2 rough cattle guards. And what are those cattle guards doing on that county road? It's not open range, is it?
Part of it is.
Open
Part of it
range?
was. It might be not, yeah, it is. To the north of there is part of it that's open pasture. One of them I can swear to.
That's what fences are for.
Okay.
I can't, I'm adamantly opposed to spending that kind of money for one residence out there. One residence.
Madam Chair?
Just,
Commissioner LaCroy first, then Commissioner DeSanto, please.
Tom, my question is, when you come on, you probably did a 5-year plan assessment of all the bridges. I've looked at more bridges in the last few months than a
You
long
existed.
time. And you came up with, I'm assuming you come up with a plan of the ones that needed the work the most, and we follow through with this plan. That's how we budget for bridge replacement. And I kind of see that as, I've heard some discussion on the number of people, we've heard it on roads, bridges, and everything else, the use of it. But in all sense and reality, we have to be equal to all taxpayers that are out there. I mean, we've done the analysis of the bridges. We know which ones need to be replaced. We know which one's the oldest and move forward as we go to that route. because I've heard some discussion of jumping and taking money, don't do this one, but I think in government, we need to keep with the structure for the simple fact that commissioners come and go, and if we put one off and don't come back, change around, we may not get back to that one, depending on who's on board. But I just wanted to confirm that we have like a 5-year plan for replacement of the bridges that need it the most as we go.
We do have one, and this year, after my bridge inspections are completed this year, we're going to sit down and revise I will be bringing that to the commission.
Okay, that's all I had. Thanks, Tom.
Yes.
Thanks. Commissioner DeSanto, please.
I just feel that we need to take into consideration priorities. Currently, I feel that there are higher priorities than replacing a bridge that is going to save, frankly, a couple of people. I've driven that road several times and haven't even seen a car on it yet. But it's going to save a couple of people having to take an extra mile out of their day to drive through Farmingdale, to get to the highway to come back. That's from the furthest residence. And then there's also a secondary way to get back to 44 that might take them 4 miles out of their way. But it's not an emergency situation or even close to an emergency situation where we're going to lock people out there like with the Bradsky Bridge type of situation. I feel, and I understand it's budgeted, and I would like to compliment Tom on coming in under budget on this bridge bid. However, I would personally think, and that's my area out there, I think this $218,000 would be better spent going towards a secondary access on Bradsky Road so we don't wind up in the same situation again. If that bridge got washed out, they only have one access. We need a secondary access. When that decision was made in a previous commission to allow those residences to be put out there without a secondary access, it was a big mistake. And I think that's been a big mistake for a long time. I think we should take that money, redirect it to be spent on a secondary access road to those two neighborhoods out off of Bradsky Road, and let Hammerquist Bridge go until, one, our reserves are back to where we want them at 18%, and two, we've addressed the Bradsky situation.
Thank you, Commissioner Santo.
I would like to make one comment.
Can I make one first? Number one, if you look on the map, there's a lot of one access in, one access out. And we're gonna have one for the Salvation Army today, and that's in all the floodway. And the priority to me, if I had to get a second access, wouldn't be Bradsky Bridge, because they can actually have some flat land to get out. It would be Thunderhead Falls and those floodway areas where people are going to be actually a life and death situation. So I appreciate the, wanting to do this first, but that's why I rely on the highway department, because there's a lot of different areas that if we want to spend that money and we decide that as a commission, we're going to go in on those over 40 people access areas. Guys, Mr. Buskard probably wants that money for his area first in Thunderhead Falls, because that's pretty intense area. That's a camp that has 100 people that go in it, plus you have all the residences there. So, and the road is going to be flooded on both sides. So my issue here is that there comes to a point, guys, that you're going to pick and choose what you feel is the best, and I appreciate that, because that's, our job. But I also rely on the guy and Mr. Schock that have been in here a long time and that know their job. And I believe in this bridge that it needs to be replaced, and we can do it now or we can do it later and put it down the road, but I don't know.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate what you're saying. And frankly, if Thunderhead Falls is more dire situation, then I have no problem with taking the money and spending it on Thunderhead Falls. This isn't I guess, so to speak, a selfish, I want this for my district type of thing.
Right.
This is just simply, there are higher priorities. You just pointed out one, Thunderhead Falls, that where people are could be in danger if we have a flood this October or November.
And I apologize, that wasn't a bridge. I'm sorry, that was a road.
That's
but-
okay, that's okay.
Second access, sorry.
My point is, let's take the $218,000 and put it towards something where we've got liability, where people are gonna possibly get trapped and not get out, like we had with that was just an example, Bradsky Road. The Hammerquist Bridge just, to me, I think it can be
So,
driven around without much
and I-
issue.
and I appreciate that, but we're gonna just repurpose everything to where we want it to be because we're not relying on our highway department again, because we don't feel it's a necessary thing. I'm sure we all can come up with lists, is what I'm trying to say, but where do we stop and where do we rely on the person that we hired to tell us what is the priority based on his 5-year plan and his 10-year plan? Do we just keep changing his plan based on our priority? So where do we learn and where do we figure out that comprehensive plan of what's supposed to happen in the future for Pennington County?
Tom's next in line to talk.
Okay, hold on a sec. Thank you. Tom,
This bridge, if we don't do something, we'll be closing the road. This bridge is a 3-ton structure. It's either do it now or we close the road, period.
Close it.
I don't want to do that. I don't agree with that.
okay.
But this is the issue.
Also, the other thing, you're talking about one-way in, one-way out roads. I have 17 roads that have bridges on them with one-way in, one-way out. Where do we start? Where do we stop?
That's where we start. Let's address
I mean,
those.
to me, it's a never-ending thing. And it's gonna cost us a lot of money to take care of those. And this is just ones with bridges. So, I don't know. To me, this is a high-priority bridge because it's a 3-ton structure.
Okay, Commissioner Farabee.
For one person, for one residence, to me, that's just crazy. Now, the Bradsky Road deal, as an example, there's gonna be more development, that's almost for sure. More development. There's more development than it's happened than should have happened. We shouldn't have gone that far across Bradsky Road, whatever that subdivision's called out there.
George, but
There's gonna be more.
George,
But we
there
got
already
those
is.
folks locked in, bunches of them. Bunches of folks versus one.
Thank you. Commissioner LaCroy.
You know, I commend Commissioner DeSanto for being creative, and I understand where he's going with this, but I also have been around long enough to know that once we start something like this and defray from a plan that we have, then everything goes awry. And I've worked with Mark on that issue out there. I don't want to get stuck on that. I believe we need to follow the process to be equal to all residents and all taxpayers. That's how we go through it. What we do about some of the 17 other, that's something we need to probably have a discussion on. It's not just one. There's 17 others, and there's plenty of them that we need to somehow have that discussion. But as far as right now, I know this was the need and it was planned out, and I'm going to support the motion to approve it. And I think this commission probably does have to have discussion on those other 17 that are out there.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I've got a motion. Let's defer this or continue this item until we find out who the other 17 are, how many individuals involved, how many residents involved. So let's defer it until we find out who the other 17 are. Thank you.
Okay. So you want to substitute to find out how many, instead of approving Hammercrest Road, you want to know who the other 17 are?
17 total, sorry.
Other
Let's set a
bridges.
priority list, I think
Okay,
is what.
there's a substitute. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
Madam Chair?
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Commissioner Busker?
I don't know if it's exactly on the motion, but we just passed a resolution to have a hearing on closing, taking a road off of our system. This is on the system, correct?
This is on system, yes. This is on
And
our
so if
county.
you close it, have you not basically taken it off our system? Do we have to have a hearing on that? Can you close any county highway you feel like it?
We could close roads through the commission. We can close any road we want. But this one, some of them doesn't make sense to me. I mean, legally, we can do it, but there will be repercussions.
Well,
Commissioners?
and the other thing is, you said there's 50 cars a day going on it, and that's 250,000, that's $5,000 a car. We're about ready to spend $9 million for 150 cars a day, that's $60,000 a car.
I myself been finding in the county, most of the roads, most of the bridges, most of the areas are the same. And George says one, and that's out of line. So we can say that all day, but we also said there's 40 cars before on one road. So where are we saying, we're listening to one commissioner say one, we're saying a highway guy is saying 50. Guys, these are county roads. So you want a total of, or is this commission going to come up with a number that we all decide that it's enough on a road or a bridge for us to have Tom go out and do it? Is that the bottom line here today?
I'm just asking for us, going in line with George and even Lloyd. I mean, I think we're in agreement that at some point in time or another, we have to
Right.
get a list to make some priorities. Why not now? Why not do it now?
So it would be the list from the commissioners, not the list from the highway
No,
guy?
I want Tom to give us a list of these
Priorities.
priority that could possibly cause an emergency situation, is what I'm assuming these 17 that you're talking about with bridges. And let's set a priority list and make a priority list and say, this is where we're going to go. This is how we're going to fix it.
So second access areas, and it would be a priority for you, and you want to start having Tom make a list for us to do that instead of the priority list that he's already made for us? We're going to change that.
I have structures.
That's our job, as far as I know.
My job in my opinion, it's my job to prioritize my structures. Which ones are the safest? Which ones need to be replaced? This is one I feel needs to be replaced.
And I don't disagree.
Okay, so who's next in line? Anybody? Commissioner LaCroy,
Public, oh,
No,
speak when we're done.
first, I don't think we had a motion to approve or anything, so I don't know.
I thought we did.
Well, we're talking
I
about,
seconded it.
right
No,
now,
no,
we're talking
I-
about the substitute. The substitute was on,
To continue it until we find out,
yes,
I'm trying to
get
find,
more information.
I'm trying to find out the process of where we were at. Wasn't sure if there was,
Had a motion by Buskerud and seconded by you to
Okay,
award it, and then
okay.
we got the
Substitute.
substitute.
and the
Yes, sir.
substitute, so the substitute motion to continue is on the floor.
yes, to
Yes.
find out those
Okay.
17 other
So I call the
priorities.
question.
Okay. The question has been called. So we're ready to take a vote.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call, please, on the substitute.
Well, I object to, I don't think it's calling the questions in order, but the public sure has a chance to speak before we vote.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
Buskerud? This is on the substitute motion.
Substitute.
I was calling the question.
You have to vote.
We've got to vote on the calling the
Okay.
question first.
I'm
and I-
sorry. Vote on calling the
And
question.
I don't think that's an appropriate parliamentary procedure, but
Thank you, George. You're right. Okay.
Okay, Buskerud?
Yes.
DeSanto?
No.
Fairby?
no.
LaCroy?
Aye.
Hadcock?
Aye.
Okay.
So now
So we're
vote on
denying,
the
Vote on the substitute
substitute, please.
and we're denying the public, we're denying the public a chance for input.
Not yet, George. Okay.
Buskerud?
What are we voting on this time?
Now we're voting on
The
substitute.
No.
DeSanto?
Aye.
Fairby?
Yes.
LaCroy?
No.
Hadcock?
No. Now we're on the original motion. Can we have the public speak on the original motion? Or do we have to call in the question means we have no other
I
discussion?
think calling the question was on
The
the
substitute.
substitutes, I believe.
Okay,
So I have
So-
something to say on the original. If
okay. Okay, go ahead.
you said raise your finger.
The good one.
I agreed with the last motion that we need to get a priority list. And I guess I've always felt that we pay our department heads enough money that hopefully they're doing their right job. And Tom has said this is his priority for the bridges, so I guess I'm going to rely on that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Richard? I think someone called you that.
Dan Richer, I just got a couple of comments. One, I think it was a couple of years ago, about this time, you must have said 500 times there's only 7 people living back in this road that Hill City got washed out.
9.
Okay, 9 people.
I think you guys told me it.
Must have said about 500 times that there was only 9 people on that road. Now, one person is okay. So that's just a comment.
I didn't say one person, but thank you.
The other thing is, all these plans and all this and that, these are yours, not the highways. Not, the budget is not belong to the treasurer or the accountant. These are yours. And these people are the experts to give you the information, but it's your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we ready to vote on the original motion? Kara, can you read that again?
Yes, the original motion is to award the bridge replacement to heavy constructors in the amount of $218,237.
Okay, let's do roll call.
Okay, Buskerud? DeSanto?
Nay.
Farabee?
No.
LaCroy?
Aye.
And Hadcock?
Aye,
3-2.
thank you. And then board, if we want, we can have people come forward from the commission that can make those recommendations to work with Tom, if you'd like any of the commissioners, and have him bring some of his priorities or the things that you think are priorities forward. That would be awesome, because I wasn't against what you were thinking either. I think it's a good suggestion. It just, Tom needs to have that heads up ahead of time. Thank you. Number C, 15C would be award recommendation, bridge replacement, Sharp Road.
Sharp Road, yes. I attached the bid tabs for that project. Bids were open May 24th as authorized by the commission. 3 bids were received, 1 from Heavy, 1 from Core Construction, and 1 from One Egg Construction. Low bidder was Heavy Constructors of Rapid City, the amount of $269,887. This was provided for in our 17 budget, and we recommend awarding it to Heavy Constructors.
Is there a motion, please?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by Buskerud. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Oops, sorry, George, I didn't see you.
How much did the design cost us?
I don't have that number in front of me. I'm sorry. I did not bring those numbers with me.
If I said 40,000, that would be in the ballpark, right?
Should be, yes.
But just so the public knows, this is going to be a $300 and some thousand bridge, mostly for Pennington County to haul gravel from one side to the other. And I'm adamantly opposed to that kind of expenditure of taxpayer dollars. The bridge, and this, if you recall, the 2 new commissioners don't recall, but last fall, this thing was on the agenda. I'd went out and looked at the bridge, and the bridge inspector said it's good for another 20 years.
That's funny.
Another 20 years, load limited, yes, but the load limits apply primarily to Pennington County. This is a foolish waste expenditure of public money. Thank
So
you.
Tom, could you tell us the facts on the bridge, because that was George's opinion on what the inspector said on
Wait a
that
minute, I'll
bridge.
take exception to that.
Commissioner Fairby, you were out there with someone that, not with our highway department, and you told us one thing, and he told the highway department something different. So you repeated what he told you, not what he told the guy that actually does this for bridges. So,
I can't say exactly what he said, because I know, but I do know what his opinion is on timber structures. And he said it may last, but it's a posted structure, it's structurally deficient. I'm working to try to get rid of as many of the posted structures, structurally deficient structures, as we have, either by repairing, upgrading, or replacing. This cannot be repaired or upgraded. It has to be replaced. That is my function, in my opinion, is to get rid of deficient bridges, one way or another. This is a structurally deficient bridge. It's posted. So
thank you.
this is just next on the list.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
3 yes, 2 no. Thank you. 15D.
D, this is our annual striping program that the state does. We pay a portion of it. I'm just asking your authorization to proceed with this, excuse me. I gotta compose myself just for a second.
Here, okay.
I'm asking for your authorization to move forward with this program.
Is there a motion?
Moved.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Mr. LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Whoa.
Okay.
How would, I had raised my hand way up or just a finger? I mean, no.
No, I looked at you first and your finger wasn't up yet. Slow on the draw over there. Commissioner Fairby, please.
$251,000. That's our share of the striping, correct?
The total estimated for a county striping program for us, yes.
Or just Pennington
Or
County?
Estimated 204,
It says 2016 county striping
yeah,
program.
I'm sorry, I had to reread it. Yes,
So it's not 2017, it's 2016 county striping.
yeah, it's 2017 striping.
That's
It
2017.
says 2016.
Oh, I'm sorry, a typo. It should have been
And that's-
17.
And that's just Pennington County, not all the counties.
That's just us. That's just our portion.
So 290,000 miles,
How many?
290 miles.
Yes,
That's about half of our.
that's all of our
it's
asphalt.
All of our,
roads.
yeah, excuse me.
All of our
yeah.
asphalt roads.
We're gonna pave them we do that every year?
We do
All
this
of them?
every year.
All of them,
Every asphalt road gets painted.
every
It's a
year?
safety item, yes.
Wow.
Some of them we, in the past, have painted twice because we do it before rally and after rally. This one, we're not gonna be able to do it because they're not letting the project soon enough.
More discussion, George?
Wow,
or you good?
no,
Okay.
no,
Any
I-
other discussion?
wow.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Or 1 no from
Since the
Commissioner.
next couple are
Fairby.
gonna be a little longer, can we take a 5-minute break, please?
Yes, sir. Do we have a motion, 5 minutes for a break?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Actually, come out of recess.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Busker, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 16 is the resolution to support clarification of park model homes for taxation purposes by the South Dakota legislatures. Who's gonna speak on this? Busker, would you like to speak about this?
Well, we did a little, thanks to Holly, did a little revision of this, and basically, I think what we tried to do was, or she did, in fact, was just to say, we don't really care, let's just make a decision, which is it? Is it a trailer, is it can we tax it, or can't we? And, you make up your mind, should they get licensed, or should they pay property taxes? And that's all it is.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
Second.
By Mr. Farabee, second by Mr. DeSanto. Discussion, please?
I'd just like to make comment. Thanks, Ron and Holly, for doing this. I think the shorter version compared to this one here is more direct and to the point. You know, I truly believe that's a good point, and asking for the task force is important because that's something that they have to have the discussion to do, and I think, so I appreciate this setup. Thank you.
I had worked on this at home, and Holly sent me this, so she must have read my mind, because it's almost word for word to what I would have written, so she did a wonderful job, and I'd like to take credit for it, but.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. We do have a motion by Mr. Farabee, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you again. Item 17 is a repeal of temporary zoning ordinance number 664, regulating alternative energy in the Pennington County zoning districts.
That's what I was going to say. PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. Yep, ordinance 678, a repeal of temporary zoning ordinance 664, regulating alternative energy in all Pennington County zoning districts. The new ordinance that was done by committee and passed by Planning Commission and the board took effect on April 26, 2017.
Nice, so this takes the moratorium off.
Correct.
Do we have a
Motion to repeal temporary zoning ordinance 664.
Motion by Buskard, second by LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you to all the people that were on that committee and the planning department. Took us a few months, but we got it done, and thanks to them and legal, and Miss Holly, I should say, we got that done. So thank you to everybody who worked hard on that. Number
Madam
8.
Chair, I've got a question on repealing ordinances. When are we going to repeal the wheel tax ordinance?
On to the next subject, items from planning and zoning.
Number 18 is part of the consent agenda. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following items. Item A, first reading and public hearing of ordinance amendment 1603 from Pennington County, and staff and planning commission recommend denial without prejudice to allow staff time to perform additional research. Item B, planning layout plat 1708, Dean and Patricia Farr, and approval's been recommended. Item C, layout plat 1709, Bradley and Gloria Groth, Howe Land Surveying as the agent, and approval's been recommended. Item D, layout plat 1710, Tracy Spans, Howe Land Surveying as the agent, approval has been recommended. Item C, layout plat 1711, Delbert Haskell, Howe Land Surveying as the agent, and approval has been recommended. That's it.
That's A through E?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone from the public who would like to speak on items A through E in the planning zoning? Is there anyone from the commission who would like to pull any items A through E from the consent calendar for planning? If not, a motion, please.
Move for approval.
Moved by Mr. LaCroy, second by
Second.
Mr. Buskerud. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next, we're on the regular agenda items, number F.
Letter F is Plan Unit Development Review 0902 to review the Salvation Army Camp Plan Unit Development. This was brought before you on May 2nd, 2017. The board asked for a continuation to clarify some of the wording and the conditions. Since that time, staff has worked with the Pennington County Fire Administrator, state wildland fire personnel to discuss the necessary changes. There's an item in your packet that has the black and red text. The red text are the recommended changes from the state and our local fire administrator, and we incorporated those into the 22 conditions that staff is recommending for approval, the review of 0902.
Thank you, PJ. Any questions from the board? The only thing I had was, and that's what I talked about earlier, we talked about roads. You've got, is there a second access out of this area of Thunderhead Falls?
This specific lot, none that I'm aware of other than walking out.
Okay, and how many people live in this area, by chance, do you know, PJ?
Not individual lots, no. I could pull up on Rapid Map how many address points we have. That would give you a good indication.
30, 40?
Maybe high 20s, low 30s.
Okay. And if you look, Commission, and this is what I'm talking about, look where the floodway goes, and it goes across these, both the ways in and out of this property.
The property is actually surrounded.
And, yep, and they can have 100 people in here at once. So they do have an evacuation plan and all that for this property?
Yes, and with the reviews, they have to update them and meet with Dustin Willett for approval.
And for me, just from seeing from the flood in different areas, for me, it's gonna be hard for me to just think that's okay, so. Do we have a motion board? Any other discussion?
I'm trying to remember, Madam Chair, this was continued on because it had to do with the fire. If I remember right, George had questions on
Correct,
that, and
yes.
that's been added and addressed.
Right.
And,
Yes.
and I understand where Chairman Hadcock's concerns are with. This is already pre-existing,
Right.
and so I don't know if I can make the motion without.
Go ahead, Mr. LaCroix.
I'd make the motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Buschrood. Any discussion? For me, I was here for the 72 flood, and some of these areas that we're talking about, this was pretty much an area that had a lot of issues.
It was wiped out.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm trying to say. So not only do we have 20 residents, we can have up to 100 people in a campground, and we're going to evacuate them to where? In order to make this safe, health, safety, and welfare. Maybe the fire marshal or someone could tell me, where would the people go if they didn't get out? Because they are surrounded by the water. If they are sleeping, here's the issue. You're going to be sleeping in there, you're going to be camping in there, and they're surrounded by water. And I've seen this before where when the flood comes, or if it starts flooding, people are sleeping, they don't even know what's happening. So,
Madam Chair?
Commissioner DeSanto.
It's my understanding that FEMA requires that if you can't move something within 8 hours out of a floodplain, that it can't be approved. Is that correct?
I don't know about the 8 hours. I haven't heard that part of it. But you're allowed to have some structures in floodplains. They have tons of regulations. Right now, the items that they did have in the floodplain have been moved. The only thing that they have in the floodplain right now are benches on the northeast side. All the other existing structures are out. And from the base of where the creek is up to the highest point on the property is a 40-foot difference.
So they're out of the floodway or the floodplain? They're
I'm sorry. I
Existing
should've-
structures are out,
of the floodway?
both.
Okay.
The existing ones, old ones that were there, we talked about earlier, have been removed. The only thing that's left are 2 sets of benches that they use for maybe guitars, meetings, I don't know.
Okay.
And just to correct, I misspoke. The FEMA rule I was under the understanding was floodway, that you can't have somebody park a trailer or a camper or whatever in a floodway that can't be up and moved in 8 hours.
8 hours.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Commissioner?
I just, thanks for the clarification, PJ, on that. I will say, I share the same concerns as Ms. Hadcock does, but I think some things have changed a lot since 1972, especially with our emergency management and notices and so forth. And if we knew something was coming, I would assume with the plan that she was talking about, that would play a part into it, so.
Did we get an answer on Dustin's plan? How to get people out.
I can't hear you.
Evacuation plan, sorry.
So they have to, so every time it goes up for review, the evacuation plan is reviewed, and it has to get approved by Dustin Willett, our emergency manager. And also recently, he's been, he's one of the newest certified floodplain managers, so he understands kind of all different sides. So he will see it. They have a requirement to go before them.
And he didn't have any comments.
He hasn't seen it yet. He's seen the old ones, hasn't seen the new ones.
So he hasn't commented on this yet, and we're approving it, or we approve it,
So they
then he
can do-
sees it?
There's an existing one in place, and the approval now then requires them to go and meet with Dustin and everybody down in that office and develop a plan, and they go forward with that. So you're approving that they're going to do that. That's the conditions.
I guess for me, I'd like to see that before I approve it, for me, but that's not the board's, if that's not the board's wish, so.
It's gonna happen, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
So I guess I can make a substitute to have that plan first, and then I think that's gonna make me comfortable approving it. So that'd be my substitute, is to see the plan first and then approve
So your
this.
substitute is to see an approved evacuation plan prior to voting on this motion.
Thank you, DeSanto, yes.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that?
Madam Chair, along those lines, what would happen if somebody in that area came in for another new residence?
They would have to get an approved building permit.
And that's kind of where I'm going. So there's unlimited number, you don't have a restriction on the number of new residences or number of residences in the area because of one access.
We'll monitor it. They're in the subdivision regulations for dead-end roads and dead-end road systems, which is the issue that came up with the Bradsky Road when that was exceeded in 2002, I believe.
Yes. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, where I'm going, obviously, it's, and I don't like the word grandfather, but legal nonconforming, but going forward, you probably shouldn't put more people in danger.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, PJ. Item G.
Item G is request not to submit engineered road construction plans and not to build to ordinance 14 standards in a section line right-of-way. Logan Schaefer is the applicant from Miller Construction. They're looking to build within the section line right-of-way through CS 1701. They're going to build an 800-foot-long driveway that will cross the section line right-of-way in the southwest quarter, section 9. The driveway will consist of a 12-foot wide driving surface with 4 inches of 3/4 inch base course gravel. There will be ditches installed to address the drainage in the upper side of the road. An access easement was filed with the Register of Deeds in January 2017 to allow access across private property. And the variance request is not to submit engineered road construction plans, that the surface of the road be 4 inches of gravel instead of 6, and that the road width be 12-foot wide driving surface in lieu of 24 feet. And the applicant and the agent are in the audience today for questions.
PJ, can I ask, was the staff in favor?
We usually aren't in favor of variances.
Oh, okay.
They
Thank you, sorry.
traditionally go against the ordinance, but this isn't a true variance in the sense that we would normally see with the Board of Adjustment.
This is just crossing the section line.
That's all it is, yes.
Okay.
I'll
And
make a
instead of-
motion to approve it.
Motion to approve by Buschrood, second by LaCroy. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, haven't had a chance to talk to the engineer or the Miller Construction, Logan Schaefer, yet. And before we vote, we should have him speak if he's here.
Okay. If you'd like to have him speak. Sir, state your name, please.
I'm Logan Schaefer with Miller Construction.
Mr.
So I warn you, do not, and one of my favorite sayings, do not pull defeat out of the jaws of victory. So watch what you say.
Things are going well.
You can say anything to George, but be nice to the rest of us, what he said. I'm kidding. We're teasing you. Okay.
I have a
Buschrood isn't, but.
I haven't looked at the topography out there yet, but is there any reason that that road can't be perpendicular to the section line?
Well, everything north of that easement is, really sloped uphill. And that road that would be accessing off of already crosses that section line just to the north there. And it would disturb less area to access it from where we're proposing.
But you could be perpendicular without too much extra work.
I guess I'm not following what you're asking there.
Run north and south on the section line and then over?
Perpendicular to the crossing, the minimal disturbance crossing the section line right away is what I'm after.
The east-west section line, not the north-south section line?
Yes.
So I think he's
Well, it's,
coming that way.
it's north-south section line. There is no east-west there.
Well, that's
There
lot,
is
that's
an
lot
east-west.
line.
What he's asking is why is the main reason why you put it where you put it instead of perpendicular?
That's where the easement was granted when purchase of the property
So it's for the easement,
took
George.
place.
And that leads to the question, and maybe Commissioner Busker can help. Can an individual grant an easement to a section line right away?
Is it on the section line, sir?
A
Easement?
portion of it
You
is.
can't, I wouldn't think you can grant an easement to something you don't own.
That's where
Well,
I'm going.
but they, he might own the section line property,
PJ
but
can,
I don't,
maybe PJ knows Busker.
I would talk with the engineer to see how he drew this up, because it has a 20-foot wide private access easement, but not sure exactly where it starts on the exhibit that's on the board there.
Okay. Mr. Logan?
Yes.
I don't think he needs an easement across the section line. He can go across it if he
After,
wants to.
before and
Okay,
after.
yeah.
If he gets our permission, I guess, to build on it.
But his easement goes in the right area for the section line, am I correct? So it works better with the easement and how it ends up with that section line?
Yes.
That's what you're asking for, okay. Understand that, George?
Well, it's not that easy. The 66-foot right-of-way is set aside for the public. And I don't think, and I've got several section line right-of-ways in my property, I don't think I have a right to give anybody an easement to them.
I don't think so either.
That's my hang-up, and the next item is connected to this item as well, but that easement, I don't, if it's recorded, is it recorded up at the Register of Deeds?
Yes.
I don't know whether Jay's around.
Yeah, he's here.
So that's not on here, George, for the variance, is to submit engineer road construction plans, surface road 4 inches of gravel, construct road at 12 feet instead of 24 is the variance.
So we'll wait till item H then.
Okay. That's this one? Or is that G? That's
Item
G,
H is
yeah.
the
Yeah.
section line, and
It's G. Just red G. That's what.
if we want to go
this
into a G, fine, then we'll talk some more on item H, is the section line itself.
Okay, that's why I'm saying we're on G, and we have a motion, Buskirk, second by LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Now H, Mr. Farabee. Now, this is the section line we're talking about, Mr. Logan, on H.
Yes.
Okay.
Item H is road construction within a section line right-of-way, CS 1701, to construct a 24-foot wide gravel road surface, but we just had the variance allowed to 12. Landowners are Gregory Kreitz and Stroud Family LLC. Applicant is Logan Schaefer from Miller Construction, who is here today. Pretty much everything that was in here we've been discussing, so.
Okay, thank you.
Just get to the end here. Staff recommends approval of the request to construct a road within section line right-of-way through CS 1701, which includes constructing the section line right-of-way to County Ordinance 14 standards with the following 7 conditions. However, you just waived those, so those will kind of be a moot point.
Okay, is there a motion?
Before we go there,
Discussion first, okay? Commissioner Fairweather.
we've discussed section line right-of-ways or previously, and we still, of course, don't have any definitive answers on where to go with these. My feeling has always been that nobody should be doing any moving of rocks or dirt on a 66-foot right-of-way, except the government, whether it's city, county, state, feds. It looks like this particular road is almost a 60-degree angle, so it's going to take up, let me back up. I don't have a lot of problem crossing a right-of-way, but it should be minimal disturbance.
They have that in there, if you look at the analysis, George, on number 2, the Roman numeral, or is that 2, 4, 5, what is that?
Six.
6. Sorry. It's a 6. If you look at the analysis, it says that no disturbance has occurred within the section line. That section line, the right-of-way is located in clearing that is relatively flat. And then they put stipulations on there 1 through 7 as well.
I'd like to see that crossing of that 66-foot right-of-way being perpendicular to the section line. That'd be minimum, be like having to, let's say there's a road there, then it'd have to have an approach on both sides to go across the road. If that were,
Is that a substitute
There was no motion.
well,
for a motion? Okay,
I'd like to, I'll make a motion to continue this item until you get a chance to go out and physically look at the property.
I'm going to put you, there's been a motion, sorry, to continue. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and second, and a second. Any discussion? Commissioner
Logan,
LaCroy.
I think I was just gonna ask what Ms. Hadcock, you know, with this continuous to give them time to go out and look at it, you look at another 2 weeks before it comes up again, is that gonna put the schedule behind or?
I'm already way behind on it, to be honest with you, so.
Okay. That's what I need to know.
So you want it, you're okay with it being continued?
Yep, might
Okay.
as well.
Keep you out of
Okay.
trouble, maybe.
The motion and the second to continue, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We'll see you in 2 weeks, sir. If you have time, George, maybe you could call Mr. Logan and he can explain that to you. Next is I, on the planning, we have Mr. Ham.
Let's get into it here. Item I is major plan unit development 1703 to amend the existing plan unit development zoning district to allow for additional storage units, to allow for single-family residents to be used as a caretaker's residence, and to allow for commercial, future commercial uses. The applicant is Chris Ham, the agent is KTM Design Solutions. Both representatives, well, Chris is here and representative from KTM are in the audience today. Landowners are Dean Ham Trust and Storage Place Incorporated. Total square acreage is 37.13. This is an existing PUD, and what the applicant is looking to do is basically break it up into 3 separate zones, working from Zone 1 to the south to Zone 3 on the north. It will not change property lines. And so let's see if we can get to that here. So if you can see here from the applicant, to the south is proposed PUD Zone 1. And what they're looking to do is to allow commercial-style uses on that subject property, and that would be the commercial uses that are already approved within our zoning ordinance. In the middle would be proposed PUD Zone Number 2, which is 18.84 acres, which already has an existing mobile home park on it. And they're looking to add 2 more units and also to change the single-family residence to a caretaker's house. Proposed PUD Zone 3 to the north is planned by the applicant and as a buffer zone because of the duplexes that are there up along Port Rush Road, it looks like there. This was routed through the interdepartmental review. The most concerns that came back were the existing accesses. The applicant and staff has worked with the city because this is, there's a lot of city bordering it on 2 sides, well, a little bit over 2 sides. But they have worked with the city and came to a compromise of where the accesses are going to be. There's considerable building permit histories on the property. Kind of went over that already. So staff would recommend approval of Plan Unit Development 1703 with 22 conditions.
You have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Buschard, second by LaCroy. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
is this going to permit any additional asphalt to be laid in that development, that storage development?
I'm not sure it's asphalt. I think it's decomposed granite stabilized, isn't it?
Mr. Hammond, if
course
you'd come
gravel.
up, sir. Thank you, sir.
You worried about heat island effect or something, or?
There's a lot of drainage issues up there
Yeah.
right now, so.
Sir, your name?
Chris Ham.
Okay.
And right now, it's a base course gravel. There's no asphalt on the property.
Okay. What do you propose, across the road there, there's a lot of drainage that comes underneath the road. There must be a drainage ditch or drainage culvert that goes underneath the road, and the erosion is incredible. I mean, you know, it's a 6-foot deep ditch now. It used to be a foot deep ditch. And the more we build over there on that side of the road, the more runoff we're gonna have that's just gonna create additional erosion.
Now, were you talking about the erosion?
If you're going up.
East?
On the east side?
On the east side.
Okay. Where
You
my
can see
building-
I
Yeah.
believe that's a picture of the drainage.
It is. What I'm proposing to do, those 2 new units, the buildings are going over to the west side. Any new stuff over there all breaks off to the west and it goes to the
West?
drainage. Yeah, west and north. None of it will affect that part on Leo's property, my uncle, in the slightest.
And Commissioner DeSanto, that was my question at the Planning Commission, and that's why I needed to check. And I think I said no on this for that until I could check. If you watch where the drainage goes, most of the drainage that they're having problem with is up north, if I'm correct. And if you watch the drainage on this property, it doesn't go west, or east.
It doesn't go east. I mean, because
It goes,
topography, there's part of it, about a third of it will break east and the rest of it's gonna go to the west and north is where it's going.
where's it? It says it on here somewhere, but it's like minute where the drainage is, if you want to look
Well,
on
there is a drainage right here.
Right.
It goes underneath the road.
That goes
I
underneath
went
Moon
and
Meadows.
looked at it, so
Yep.
it was on the east side.
That's the
this
east side.
Right.
But most of the drainage that they're having problem with is up north. His drainage is made it so it's, if I'm correct,
Goes due south?
you're the,
Applicants, I'm the representative from KTM Designs.
okay, can you tell us about the drainage, sir, if that's okay?
Sure, absolutely. I think if you run along the east side of this property on Dunsmore Road, that's where the major concern is with the erosion.
Right.
That is drainage that's being picked up off of the street and then routed through the municipal storm sewer and then directed in that direction. The runoff from the storage unit area that we're talking about generally moves to the north. There's just south of Port Rush Road, there's an existing detention facility with a culvert exiting. That's where the runoff from this facility is running to currently.
And
the
Port
new
Rush,
units.
Port Rush is the road to the north,
Right.
and the drainage goes north? I thought when we were talking about this at planning, it went south.
South.
No,
Drains uphill.
it's north. I mean, can I come up and show you here or?
Do you have a pointer, PJ? So does the northern property runs north and the southern middle and the bottom property runs where?
All right, so you have, this property has, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm
Whoops,
gonna.
turn around, guys.
Oh, no, it's showing them both.
Is it showing? I'm sorry.
Actually, it comes down a little bit more, but this is a ridge here, so we've got undeveloped property here that drains in this direction.
Okay,
The majority of this property drains in this direction.
okay,
This is going from high to low. There's an existing culvert that drains in this direction with an existing pond here. There is some drainage that, actually, most everything through here flows to the north.
okay, so
Now,
when it
the-
goes to the north, just tell me one thing, does it ever, any of this drainage that you're doing, and that's, if I'm correct, Mr. DeSanto, that's your question too, is it going east? Where's the drainage going after it goes north?
This deal coming across
This right here, and I don't know if you can see the real, this is the culvert in question here.
Yes, sir.
This is picking up drainage off of Dunsmore Road. There's a few drop inlets there. That is dropping into that and then discharging to the east.
And that's the property that Leo has and maybe you went out there and you saw the big.
Right,
hole and all that
but
stuff.
you have
Right.
property, if it's all draining to the north, where's the culvert go that it's draining into? Does it go east? When it goes north, then where's it go? The water?
It goes north into the golf course property, and then it flows through a series of detention ponds, eventually into Rapid City and into Rapid Creek, several miles down.
The bottom line is, does it ever hit that east side drainage when it's
No.
done?
This will not, there's no way.
No.
Okay.
I guess what confuses me is that you've got drainage, and you can explain this to me, but you've got drainage coming south on Dunsmore Road, correct?
Correct.
And it flows into that culvert and goes off into Leo's property. Coming south on Dunsmore Road, you got drainage coming down Dunsmore Road, flowing into that culvert, is that correct?
There is drainage on Dunsmore Road that flows to the south, yes.
That flows to the south.
Yes.
And when I'm up there looking at it, that the storage units are basically on the same slope that Dunsmore Road runs on. So how can water run off of that to the north? It's on the same slope that water's running south on Dunsmore Road.
Well, what I'm talking about is where these new proposed buildings are going to the west. Anything that's there right now, I mean, it's going where it's going, but anything that's proposed of these new buildings are all gonna break, as you can see, to the north. None of that's gonna go east.
Okay, so there must be a swale
There's a sway, yeah, it's like this. I mean, it's like, that's
that
how
you
it
can't
goes.
see from Dunsmore Road.
Right, right. And if you came out, you're more than welcome to come out and look at the property, but it's really easy to tell how it's gonna go.
Leo is your dad, and you've
That's my
already
uncle.
Oh, you said that before, I apologize.
I'm sorry.
So his issue is he just wants that drainage culvert fixed.
He wants somebody to fix it. Somebody to take responsibility for it, where it's county, city,
So
me.
he's your uncle, don't you want to help him out?
Definitely know where you're at with Leo, and he called me when he said, he had the letter, and he's like, oh, come on over, see what, I said, you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, I understand your frustration, but it's not, I don't feel it's my problem.
I know, I was just teasing.
Yeah. Do you know Leo?
Way too well.
Yeah, so if you know him.
We do. Okay, guys, there's a motion. Is there any other discussion? Commissioner Farabee?
Dunsmore Road, who does it belong to? Yeah,
That's the question. I have no idea.
City, isn't it? It's paved. Highway Department? Some of it is.
We control Dunsmore Road south of Sheridan Lake.
Oh.
Nobody claims that little piece. Neither us nor the city.
City paved it, or had.
City
the
paved it,
developer
city
pave it?
inspected the construction. We had nothing to do with it.
Wow.
But
Madam
they don't
Chair.
claim it because it's outside the city limits.
but everything north of Sheridan Lake Road is nobody's territory.
What did I just say?
That
Everything
stretch
north.
up to the intersection is gray area.
But they paid for to stop some of the stoplights there.
Okay, guys, hold on a sec. Commissioner DeSanto?
Am I not correct that directly under Dunsmore Road, all the way into that neighborhood, the city's put water and sewer
That's what I understand.
where it runs,
And it's
yet
not
they don't
annexed
claim
in?
it?
Sorry, is it not annexed in?
No, it's not annexed. The annexation starts up at the intersection to the north there.
So I would say,
Show us on the map,
Okay,
show
let's-
us on that map.
let's do this first, and then if you guys want to have a discussion on it, we'll do it on committee reports or something.
The hashed area there in the yellow and white hashed areas is city in this map up there.
Because the bottom line is that we
Yeah,
need to
right.
do something and write a letter or something, so we figure out, remember if they want to annex it in, kind of like we did with South Valley and other areas.
Oh, well, the reason I'm going there is, there's no question there'd be no more drainage to the east. Whatever you're proposing here, there's no more drainage to the east.
Or calling your uncle.
Call him. He probably will argue it, but anybody
I'm
can come out and
sorry.
look at it.
I apologize. I just started an open.
Either you or Leo are right about
Right, and
drainage.
I'm sure I'm
Well,
right.
One of you are right.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we do have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll bring that up on the committee reports. 19 would be items from office manager. Made Holly run away already.
There she is.
Holly, the waterways.
Okay, the only thing that I did for you, I added some additional information. NACO came out with a letter that they submitted on behalf of all the counties in the United States, geared towards this proposed rewrite. And then I also included two other lists of, one was the unfunded mandates that the counties, are responsible for, and the other was the status of some EPA regulations that are going through. So at this time, comments are due June 19th, which is the day before our next commission meeting. If this board chooses to submit a letter, we can certainly do that. You can choose to not act and allow NACO to act on the behalf of the counties. At this point, it's kind of early in the stage to see what's happening. This is just comments on a proposed rewrite. So just, what's the wish of the board?
I see number 2. Anybody else have any comments? Kind of like to see what the NACO does for the counties.
I kind of like the letter that we'd seen first brought up that the previous commission had sent prior. I was looking through that when I was going through and I didn't see that.
And that was written in 2014 on the last proposed revisions of waters of the U.S., which would have significantly increased the EPA's authority. So I think it would need to be tweaked a little bit if the board so chooses, but NACO's was very good. It was quite lengthy and quite thorough.
What's your motion, Mr. LaCroy?
I guess I'd like to know what everybody else heard. I mean, the other one could be tweaked, but if, I thought it was short and simple, that's what I kind of like. To the point, and I think the one from NACO is what, 3 pages?
No, it's multiple,
Yeah,
more than 30, like a lot.
Yep.
And the one from 2014 is still on the public docket. It's still on record for Pennington County. It's still effective.
I'd make the motion to use that one tweaked, if anybody's, unless anybody else has got
Tweaked to what?
this year's.
Say what you meant by tweak,
Which
Ms.
is
Holly.
going to reduce the EPA's control, or?
If that's the position of the board, basically change the date, make sure it's current, and say that we're okay with the Clean Water Act the way it sits. We don't want any more regulations.
Okay, I'll second that for
That's where I'm
discussion.
at.
That way we can just keep talking about it. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the letter? If not, Mr. Fairby?
I'm not too sure that we need to be saying anything. Our new administration, I think, has got our concerns well in mind, and hopefully he'll keep, for the next 3.5 years at least, keep EPA out of our business. So I'm confident the administration's got things under control. So I don't think we need anything.
LaCroy?
The only reason why I suggest using the previous commission's letter is it's more personal. I mean, we could go with the NACO and agree with them, but I just think it's more appropriate that we have a view and it comes from us is the reason why I chose that.
Agree. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 20. Items from the chair would be Dunsmore Road. Maybe look into that and see if we could write a letter to maybe the city and see if they'll annex in that area since they've developed it. I can work with Tom if that's okay with the board and
And then
look
they-
into that if the board wishes,
And then maybe they can do
and get a
something about
report?
that drainage.
going on the next meeting.
Agreed.
That's okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, Tom is here. Can you share anything any more with us, Tom?
Well, yeah, that would be nice.
This is a project that I've worked on about 2 years ago, trying to get them to annex this in. We had lots of questions because Mr. Ham contacted me about the drainage. And they basically said they're not interested in that until it gets developed. Even though, and they even deny that they had inspectors out there, even though I had people that were on the construction crew telling me city inspectors were there watching the work. So we can talk to them,
Okay.
but I'm not going to promise anything.
Who plows, who does the snow plowing? Do we do it?
We do not. That's all I can
That was a
swear to.
question Leo asked me the other day, and I said, I don't know, but I asked today, and so we don't do it, huh?
We do not. No, we turn and go,
I was
we go
actually
south, we
really
do
proud.
not go north.
And it looked-
Plowed it?
When I was, pardon me, I've got clients in that neighborhood, and I was there the day that it was being plowed, and it actually looked like maybe it was homeowners association,
It might be.
a private plow.
I bet you're right.
I mean, it didn't have any city or state or county marks on it, I can tell you that. It was just a,
Huh.
We go south, we do not go north.
But it looks like we need to be pressing the point pretty hard about, who owns that road? It's obviously a highly traveled road.
Bring it to city county meeting too. Hopefully we can get that information though.
I guess my question is that main goes underneath that road, and if nobody owns the road, then how do you get permission to fix the main if the main breaks?
And how do they put a main in on somebody else's property and drench them out?
Hard, that's a good question.
Build a-
That's a good
Let's build a
question.
bridge, George, let's build a bridge. There's a lot of people out there.
Well, let me ask another question. Do the city streets wind up on a state system or just county roads? The state maintains a system of roads.
Sorry.
Yes.
State roads, county roads. Do they also have a list of city roads?
I suppose they do if they're on a federal aid system, yes.
Well, where I'm going is does Pier acknowledge that road exists?
I don't think they even have any record of it at all.
I don't know how that happened.
Denmark?
It's is it 3-lane or 4-lane? I should know, but
2-lane,
it's only 2-lane?
only a 2-lane,
Very wide too.
with curb and gutter, a real nice road.
Yeah.
I remember Dunsmore.
Well, where I'm going with this, if the state controls driving services, maybe we can encourage them to get an answer. It's a driving surface there, correct?
Oh, yeah, it's a nice road.
Well,
I volunteer you.
That should be a happy time. Oh, not nice. Okay. Any other items from the commission members that they'd like to discuss that we need to look into? Tomorrow night is, I know, our meeting at 5:30, if I'm correct, Holly?
Ma'am.
Okay. I can bring food if you guys want food, or are you gonna eat before you come? Food or no food?
It's gonna be a long meeting. Bring some food.
Bring some food. You can help bring some food, but I'll bring some food. I'll bring something to eat. Okay? Anything else from commission members? How about committee reports?
Committee reports. Got to
Go ahead.
Fair Board, went to a meeting last week, Fair Board, and the good news I have is that the Fair Board's, we're looking at doing a lot of expansion on the fairgrounds. The neat thing about that expansion is we've already ascertained new national competitions that are going to bring a dramatic increase in revenue to the fairgrounds because of that building that's being built, the new stall barn. To the point where we are expecting the fairgrounds to be totally self-sufficient within the next 10 years. That's our goal, is to make the fairgrounds self-sufficient in the next 10 years. And I think that judging by the number of national events that are interested in coming to Rapid City, primarily because of when they're not doing their event, they have a lot of other things to entertain themselves with. And the numerous hotel accommodations that Rapid City has, we believe that we're going to be able to bring a lot of new events to the fairgrounds that are going to substantially increase the amount of revenue that the fairgrounds has.
Which is nice because the sales tax going down and we're bringing from Pennington County's side some pretty
It's going to
substantial
encourage
money to their
development
city. Yep.
that is going to even further fund the coffers of the county and the city.
Huge economic development.
So.
Busker, did you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Mr. LaCroix?
You didn't see my finger, did you?
You guys, I say fingers so they could see now. Okay, go ahead, Mr. LaCroix.
We had the city county meeting last week, and we had the same discussion over the fireworks and annexation issues were discussed. You know, nothing set in stone, just a lot of discussion with Spring Valley. Not Spring Valley, I keep saying.
South Valley.
South Valley, I keep getting saying Spring. South Valley, we discussed that. The fireworks deal is, we had the fire department there, we had lawyers, we had everything, and it's just a tough issue. I mean, about legislation and so forth. There's nothing, you start talking about enforcement on the city side, and like they say, we even had the police officers there, they were saying, okay, we get a complaint, we get there, they're all gone. I mean, there was just a lot of that discussion legally and with the fire. Jerome was present, made his point, and I think he'd like to see some different legislation, but I think his was a lot stricter than most people would have thought, so.
Yep.
That's how that kind of rolled around. After that, I had a meeting of the collective impact. We're having a changing of the guard with the guiding council. Albert Lemon, who did an awesome job coming to town and getting this going and getting the ball going. It's been a 2-year mark, and the whole plan with the collective impact is after 2 years that the city take ownership. Somebody within the city, you know, they get the plan going, the program, get all the participants and get all that going, and then it's time for change that we take it over. And so Liz Hamburg from Black Hills Foundation is taking over the reins of collective impact, and we're moving forward with that route. So it's going the direction it needs to go, and it was time for Albert to hand over the reins to somebody local, and that's who we're getting, somebody local. So nothing's changed, and we should be seeing some positive impacts in the community from that. There's probably a few other committees I've been to, but I didn't take notes. So those are the most important ones.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
question for the commission. I've promised a lot of people that I'm going to try and do something about the fireworks and in the valley. Can we as a commission, I don't know, either draft a resolution or create an ordinance between now and the 4th of July that basically states a curfew and enacts, and I want to talk to Sheriff Tome about this before I do anything, but enacts a fine, a litter fine, that basically says if you've still got fireworks, mortar boxes and stuff sitting in your driveway 48 hours after the 4th of July, that you're going to get a litter fine. The two primary complaints that I have is that people are shooting fireworks off after midnight, which is, frankly disrespectful to the people that like to go to bed. And two, that they leave stuff sitting around until the wind starts blowing, and we all know the wind blows, and it winds up in everybody else's yards, and they all have to clean it up, and they may not participate in the 4th of July. I have also made it very clear that I'm not going to ever suggest that we don't allow fireworks. That's just not going to happen, in my opinion. But I'd like to see a little more respect for our neighbors that don't want to celebrate the 4th of July, as far as that's concerned. What can we do?
There was discussion on that, Mark. And that, I think that's why Jay was there. So I'd probably sit down with Jay after the meeting,
Okay?
and he can kind of fill you in more with that discussion than that we had. But we had everybody, fire department, police department, everybody in the board, and they all had, but Jay would be your best bet as far as not, because the time thing was a big discussion.
You need to, bottom line, what he's saying is you need to draft something that is from legal to
For
make
our
sure
next
it's going to be legal. And then I would work with Kevin Tome and the fire department and maybe the city people, whoever that is, the chief or whoever they represent, and get them all in a meeting and say, you know, these are my ideas. Can we do this? But Jay would be the first one to go to even
Okay.
see if it's legal.
But that's
So
what I
it's- I don't think anybody's opposed to that, if I'm correct. I mean, we all love
I'm
4th of
just
July,
asking for
but
guidance.
Yep.
That's
No,
all I'm doing.
that, you know, that's what I meant, Madam Chair, is that's what we had in the room, and that's what the discussion was, but Jay could better describe what happened, and
Okay.
then I
I'll
could-
ask him and we'll see how we can move forward.
thank you, Commissioner LaCroy. Thank you for attending that meeting. I thought we were going to have 2 people there, Mr. DeSanto.
Oh.
But me and Lloyd will start going to those meetings, and then if we have people that want to have an issue with, that's going to be on there, just call us. So we'll just do it that way from now on. But Commissioner Fairby, committee report?
No.
Okay, I have, thank you, Jesus, the mining permit ordinance is going to legal and to planning. Got that done. Thank you to the committee, and Holly was amazing. Just telling you guys, and Busker was right. When we were doing some of this, I'm like, Holly, I'm so confused. A lot of the members were confused, and we had some professionals on there that did this. But we also had 2, Danielle and Brian from Pete Lean, that were amazing, working with Holly and our planning department to keep restructuring, because we had many people from the community coming in, and we had professionals that were there. We had highway department, we had school mines, we had many on both sides. So we had great discussion, but we did get the permit in draft form, moving forward to the planning and the legal. And I've been doing ordinances for about 1 year and 3 months on construction permits, should be coming through. We just all got done, thank you, board, for approving alternative energy, and then mining. And we have some mining people that want us to move this forward as quickly as possible, but it does what it does. It goes through legal, it goes through planning, and planning department, then us. So we didn't do, by the way, minerals. We just did sand and gravel, and the minerals will be coming through the planning department. So we probably will have to do, once we get the sand and gravel one through, we'll lift the moratorium on sand and gravel, and then put a moratorium, I don't know, next meeting or something on mineral one, or however we do it, Holly, or we just, maybe you could tell me.
We'll work out the timing. Ordinances
Yes.
take a while to get in, because there's publication requirements, there's reading requirements, there's 20 days effective date, so we'll look at the calendar and see how we can get that structured.
So right now, it's all mining permits. If we get the sand and gravel one through, then we'll, if we could, board, if that's the wish of the board, is to lift that sand and gravel one and keep moving forward with in situ. And the planning department is going to do in situ, because that is more complicated, more federal, more stuff that,
The
even with the
uranium is what's so
committee, that's pretty
challenging.
intense. But
Okay.
it was a great experience, and thank you to all the committee members that put in their time, including our staff.
Speaking of gravel, does anybody know where the appeal is? Is it fully briefed, or don't we know?
Holly, you heard
Have an
anything?
update yet.
Okay.
Can you check, or one of us should check by next meeting and see where we are?
Miss Holly will give us an update. George, thank you for, I was asking about that earlier, but I hadn't heard nothing. Okay. How about number 22, approval of vouchers?
So moved. Second,
By LaCroy, second by Buschrood. Any discussion?
it's just opposite there.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
It was Buskerud and then you for a second, right?
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
23, items from the public. 24 is executive session. 25 is adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by DeSanto, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. See you tomorrow night, folks.